today's date will be etched in our memories forever as we gather in presence of spiritual master whose wisdom continues to awaken consciousness around the world. Friends, please join me in welcoming His Holiness to our great state of Delaware, Sadhguru.
Namaskaram, good afternoon. It's an honor and a great pleasure to address this august body of the first state of the nation and the most business-friendly state in the country, because it's successful businesses which build successful nations. And Delaware stands as a premier state in that direction. With over 60% of the Fortune 500 companies based in Delaware is no mean achievement, thanks to all the visionary policies set in the last few decades by probably many of you participating in that. Well, we live in a world, we live in a creation where if we have eyes to see, the blossoming of a flower is a miraculous process. If you throw filth at the roots, beautiful flower with fragrance will come out. Not a small miracle. Like this, if we go about observing things around us, every piece of creation is an absolute miracle, including the human being. Can we believe this came out of just 2 cells? Here we stand. Everything, if you pay enough attention, you can't find one mundane thing on this planet. Everything is miraculous. Of all these miracles, the greatest miracle is the human mind, human intelligence. Today we are in great awe of variety of technologies. Our phones, every one of them has, our computers, our spacecrafts and our many things. But all these things are just a drop out of this miracle that we call as human being. Not our making, we're just enjoying being on the top of the pile of this evolutionary thing that's happened on this planet. Creation is not our doing, but how we manage ourselves is 100% our doing. What should be a miraculous process, the human intelligence, unfortunately has become a massive amount of pain for too many people. Most human suffering, apart from the physical things that happen to us, human suffering is essentially manufactured in human mind. What is a great miracle has become a factory of miseries for too many people. Of course, everybody has an excuse as to why they are the way they are. But all of us, when we were little children, we had faces which were you couldn't put it down, the exuberance and joy of being alive. But slowly we've become grave, as if we're in preparation, of course. So, this process of what we call as life, the life process, unfortunately, taking such a toll, especially at a time when we as a generation of people, we have comforts and conveniences no generation ever could dream of in the history of humanity. Hello? We have the highest level of comforts and conveniences that our parents or grandparents or our forefathers could not even imagine. But essentially, in many ways, a lot of population, particularly the youth in the world, their minds are cracking up before it becomes a pandemic proportions, we must act, not by producing treatment mechanisms, not by having more psychiatrists, more medicines, but teaching them methods with which they can manage their bodies, their minds, their chemistry, their thoughts and their emotions the way they want. Well, this is not there in our education systems, unfortunately, nowhere in the world. Social structures are ignoring that, for which we will pay a price. The World Health Organization predicts between 2045 and 2055. This is a terrible prediction we should prove as incorrect, because they're saying between 2045 and 2055, 20% of the human population could commit suicide. These are predictions made by experts. But predictions are made by looking at cold statistics. Predictions never take into consideration what is beating in the human heart, what we intend to do tomorrow. So, in our intention, if we have this, that the future generations should live one step better than us, not worse than us. Better does not mean just economics, better does not mean just comforts and technologies. Better means we are more peaceful, we are more joyful, we are more loving, we are more inclusive, we are more compassionate. This is possible if only we learn how to manage our own intelligence. Whatever we call as mental ailments is essentially our inability to manage our own intelligence. Our own intelligence is poking us from within. If somebody pokes us from outside, there are defenses. There are things we can do, or we can go away. But when we start poking ourselves from within, there is no way out unless we turn inward and solve that problem. So miracle of mind is a simple process, our whole entire life's work is just this, but more sophisticated and complex offerings take more commitment. So we came up with this miracle of mind. Today millions of people across the world are practicing this. It's a free offering, particularly for youth, it's for everyone, because I consider that if we are alive and breathing, we are young enough. If we were old, we would be dead. We are still young enough to be alive, that means we are young. So, I mean all of you youth, that it's important we learn how to conduct our thought process, our emotional process and our chemistry. Today there is substantial study about these things. The Beth Israel Hospital, which is the teaching medical hospital for Harvard Medical School, has studied this extensively. You can go through the reports, I think they're being given to you or it's on the website, that within 6 weeks of practice, a significant change happens in the blood chemistry, which becomes more blissful by itself. Because all human experience has a chemical basis to it. What we call as peace has a certain chemistry to it. What we call as joy is one kind of chemistry, misery is another kind of chemistry, tranquility one kind of chemistry, turmoil another kind of chemistry, agony one, and ecstasy another kind. So, as there is a science and technology to create external well-being, there is a whole science and technology to create inner well-being. This is not a religion, this is not a philosophy, this is not an ideology, this is just a technology, a tools for well-being. When I say tools, as human beings, we dominate every other species on this planet only and only because of our ability to use tools. So as there are subjective tools, as there are objective tools, there are also subjective tools. These tools should not for too long have been in the hands of different people. These tools should not be in the hands of a guru or an organization. Like they tell me, in 1865, about over 50% of the American men who were over 45 years of age had no teeth. But today, all of you have teeth, whatever you… irrespective of your age, man or woman, not because of dentists, because our mothers taught us how to brush our teeth. Hello? So these processes should become like this, that it happens in our families, that our mothers, as they potty train us, they must teach us how to manage our minds, not with belief, not with ideologies, because we can always contradict those things, but with tools for transformation, which is very possible. This is what Miracle of Mind is about. Today, people are… our volunteers are bragging that we downloaded faster than ChatGPT. In 15 hours, over 1 million people downloaded this when we launched this. Well, that's not the point. The important thing is individual people must practice and make this happen, because the only way for inner well-being, for the well-being of the human being is… in is the only way out. Outside we can fix it as much as we want, we can live in palaces, actually we are. Compared to how people were living here in United States 200 years ago, aren't we living in palaces? Hello? You are driving chariots with 400, 500 horses. Even Alexander the Great did not have such a chariot. I'm saying we are better endowed than any other generation ever in the history of humanity. Unfortunately, still there is a percentage of population which still has food and other issues, but 80% of the population on the planet is generally better endowed than anybody ever in the history of humanity. When this has happened, we being well within ourselves, we being joyful, loving and wonderful human beings is the most important thing. Otherwise, all these efforts to move an individual person or a society or a nation from poverty to affluence is a very expensive and hard job. But after getting there, if we are not even joyful, what a disaster that is. This whole effort is to just avoid that disaster for those for whom we are not still able to provide food, for those for whom we're still not able to provide peaceful atmospheres. Well, that's not all in our hands, but for those who have enough to fill their belly, at least they must be peaceful and joyful. This must happen because this is most precious for the human being, how we experience our lives. This is determined by us, because human experience happens from within us. Outside situations happen because of various factors. World may throw many things at us. What we make out of it is 100% within us. So just to empower the population, all the young people who are here, sir, I'm telling you, sir, and all the other very young people, it's my wish and my blessing that this miracle of mind should touch their lives, and this is a free offering. People can make use of it, particularly schools and colleges, youth in Delaware. It's my wish that they must have these tools. How they use it is up to them, but the tool must be available to them. Thank you very much, and if you have a question, I can take one question, please.
Madam President, wasn't aware that we could ask questions. And I will take the opportunity, quite frankly, and ask Sadhguru, and I appreciate his words and his wisdom and his visit, and I'll talk briefly about that in a moment, but to go right to a question. Given all the challenges we see in the world, many of which you referenced, I'm curious what specific thoughts you might have to elected officials for how to try and strike the right balance, both internally themselves, but also externally in a complicated world, to try and achieve some of the progress and results that you talked about.
Above all, a democratic process is one of the greatest things that human societies have come up with. Otherwise, the change of power never happened without bloodletting on this planet. That's how it's been for millennia. So democratic process is that process that people can choose their leader, not imposed upon them. So when people make a choice that they think you are the solution, well, it's the greatest privilege. We must use that privilege to the fullest, because being elected or being in a position of, I would call it responsibility, not power, it is not a position of power, but it's a position of responsibility. So leadership is essentially not about power, not about throwing our weight around, but it is a certain sacrifice that instead of just thinking about your well-being, you're thinking larger well-being as a part of your very thought process, your emotion and your action. So, how much can we do? See, we cannot do any better than what we can do. But the important thing is, in our lives, if we do not do what we cannot do, that's not a problem. But in our lives, if we do not do what we can do, we are a disastrous life. This is why I'm talking about miracle of mind. If you are not in the best possible state within yourself, suppose you are stressed, you know many times what you can do will not happen, isn't it? If you are peaceful and joyful, everything that you can do, you will do. This is a fundamental responsibility we have to people who look up to us, that everything that we can do, we do. This doesn't mean we can do everything, no. Everything that we can do must happen. What we cannot do anyway will not happen, that's okay. But what we can do, if it doesn't happen, that's a disastrous life. It's my wish and my blessing, such a disaster should not happen in this august body.
I appreciate that. I also appreciate your reference to teeth brushing earlier. Because I have a 5-year-old, almost 6-year-old, my youngest, who we've got him to brush his teeth, but to get him to adopt some of the processes that you referred to stay calm and stay within himself is something we are still working on. So I am going to, and sorry Landon, someday you might watch this video, sorry to out you in front of everyone, that I appreciate your words about that, and I'll look to learn from them.
I'm saying meditative processes should become like teeth brushing in every family.
Yes.
Naturally.
I will be exploring how best to teach a 6-year-old how to do that. Before we have, I think we have a couple of items. Before we invite the 5 leaders of the chamber up, I just want to note, and Palash Gupta has mentioned your background. I won't repeat it, but I'll just note that we truly appreciate you taking time out of your schedule during your visit to what I understand is the East Coast or Mid-Atlantic part of the United States in the past few and coming few days. Also to note that we truly appreciate what this means in the broader Delaware community. That the tens of thousands of Indian Americans who call Delaware home, that we're very proud that Delaware boasts one of the largest Indian American populations per capita in the United States and the second highest percentage of Hindus after New Jersey. And that your presence here today very much reflects the vibrancy and influence and immeasurable impact that the Indian American community has on our state. And it was for that reason also we wanted to take the time during your visit today. We appreciate all the time you've carved out today to visit with the community beyond just the chamber here, and truly appreciate that. So I guess I would ask now, I'm not quite sure the best process, but ask Senator Sokola, Lockman, Hocker, and Pettyjohn to join me up front at the request of Sadhguru and his team, after which Senator Sokola and I will present you with a tribute.
We just wanted to offer a scarf in honor of some of you. Please. We're Indian, so textiles, you know. India has over 123 varieties of weaves. It's an incredible amount of weaving techniques across the country. was telling me, India has about 125 to 26 varieties of weaves. Yes, unique weaves.
I'll grab the microphone briefly. Apologies, Sadhguru. I'm going to ask Palash, yep, if you could, Dave, if you ask Palash Gupta to join us, please, if possible, and Sadhguru. We have a tribute for you. It means very much to us. We appreciate any meaning that you attribute to. We know that you've been honored in many places in the world, and very deservedly so, but we have a tribute here on behalf of the Delaware State Senate to honor the occasion of you visiting here. And again, it very much discusses what we discussed earlier, with a particular emphasis on how important this is in the broader Delaware community. That is not lost on us. It's an honor every day to serve the broader community, its beauty, its diversity, represented so well by the Indian community. So thank you very much for your time here. We wish you very, very safe travel and hopefully fond memories of your brief visit to Delaware.
Thank you.
Thank you.